When COVID-19 hit, and we were one of the first to get hit being here in Hong Kong, one of our colleagues wanted to create an app to get the most recent information about COVID. So we created a job on KintoHub that runs every 5 minutes, that collects this data from the government. And then we rebuild a Gatsby website with the most recent data every 5 minutes. And then we got about 3 million visitors within a 4-week time span, and it cost us $0.
Hey, this is Brian, and you're listening to JAMstack Radio, a bi-weekly series where we discuss the JAMstack, a new way of building websites and apps that are fast, secure, and simple to work with. JAMstack Radio is brought to you by Heavybit, a program dedicated to helping startups take their developer products to market. For more information, visit heavybit.com. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, find us on Twitter at JAMstack Radio. Welcome to another installment of JAMstack Radio. On the line, we've got Joseph Cooper.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. And you're calling in from Hong Kong. Do you want to tell us why you're here and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, always been a fan of the JAMstack, and essentially we did a viral piece and an open source piece around JAMstack, so definitely want to talk about that. And then I'm also got a startup that I'm promoting, KintoHub, as well.
Cool. Let's talk about what KintoHub is first.
Yeah. So KintoHub, so what we're doing is that we are focusing on making it simple to deploy and debug full stack apps in the cloud. And when I say that, like full stack, I'm talking about a front-end website, a back-end API, and then some sort of database, be it like MongoDB, MySQL, Postgres, et cetera. And the reason why I think this is kind of important is because Heroku, about a decade ago, did a great job abstracting, Amazon, right? Amazon was a lot more complex back in the day. And with Heroku and other providers now, Netlify, et cetera, it makes it dead simple to be able to get that stuff, your apps into the cloud. But once your app gets a little more too complex and you need a database or things need to scale and costs get out of hand, you kind of leave Heroku and then you just go use Kubernetes and the cloud native offerings and Amazon, Google, Azure, et cetera.
Yeah, so most companies end up growing out of the simple solutions and then into something a little more complicated.
Yeah, exactly. And you usually want a little more control, and then it's usually a cost thing. Like the average person I hear that leaves those platforms is because of a cost thing or control.
Yeah.
So KintoHub's really aiming to just like be an interface for cloud providers. We're not trying to do like the next gen cloud provider itself, and we're doing this by abstracting the powerful features that cloud providers already provide or in the cloud native space and Kubernetes space. And then when we don't abstract it, we give our users the ability to control the infrastructure with these things called Helm charts. So it's really our thesis to be able to still get your full control or use like a very clean dashboard abstraction of the cloud.
Okay, so I guess the life cycle is that you have a simple solution that someone could actually scale and grow with. Is that, I guess, the pitch to anybody interested in sort of taking Kinto for a spin?
Yeah, exactly. So if you like the Heroku or like the abstracted cloud provider space, the simple cloud space, but you still want the power of Amazon, Google, Azure, before you jump over to their ships, like take a peek at KintoHub.
Excellent. Yeah. I personally am a fan of all those other things you had mentioned. And I come from the Amazon world, the AWS world. I saw that sort of product grow and grow and grow into something that it's a little overwhelming for someone new approaching it.
Yeah.
But there's some other stuff, I'm not as familiar with the Azure platform as well. So I tend to just stick to what I know. And what I know is either the simple things that like the one-click Heroku, Netlify's. But I appreciate tools like Kinto that can expand sort of my breadth of what I touch to approach deploying applications. So can we dig a little deeper into the post that you guys actually came out on the news stack and sort of how this is related to the JAMstack?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what we did is when COVID-19 hit, and we were one of the first to get hit outside of China being here in Hong Kong, one of our colleagues wanted to create an app to get the most recent information about COVID.
Yeah.
And that information might be hospital queues, like how long, if you go to a certain hospital, how long would it take for you to see a doctor? Maybe it's about, is there toilet paper available around the corner?
Yeah.
And then all the cases that have happened in your neighborhood. So if you're building, because here you can be living with 1,000 people in one single apartment complex. If your building got hit, you can know about that.
Yeah.
So this data is all publicly available by the government. And we knew that there would be a high demand for such an app to kind of look at what's going on. So we were thinking about how do you create a solution that is super cost efficient? And that's where we were looking at the JAMstack and CDNs, because once you serve something like Cloudflare as a static, website, then it's pretty much free. You can serve that millions of times and you're not paying the infrastructure costs and the server costs. So what we did is we used Gatsby to scrape this data. So we created a job on KintoHub that runs every 5 minutes that collects this data from the government. And then we rebuild a Gatsby website with the most recent data every 5 minutes and push it to Cloudflare. And then we got about 3 million visitors within a 4-week time span, and it costed us $0. So that's what the whole post was about. And we open sourced the entire solution, and actually a couple other countries have picked it up and started using it.
Wow, that's pretty nice. Actually, Gatsby's incremental builds, was that, did you leverage that or did that come in after this project?
I think it might have came in after,
okay.
And we kind of wanted to see how KintoHub fit into the play as well. So we used the job system within KintoHub to trigger new builds every 5 minutes. What is incremental builds?
So basically if you, similar to like how when you take a diff in Git, it only affects the things that you actually have changed. So very similar to incremental builds. If there's a page that has changed, it only builds that page as opposed to the entire project. Hopefully I didn't butcher that for anybody who works at Gatsby or has already been using it. I've only just read a couple of blog posts and saw Wes Boss actually started using Gatsby as well. But yeah, essentially that. So cool. I could see like every 5 minutes though, does it not get too expensive if you're...
Yeah, it's we got the build times using like, it gets kind of crazy with like what's underneath the hood at KintoHub, but using Canico, we were able to do a lot of caching in the Gatsby layers of a Docker cache. So really we're only rebuilding a very small piece of it, and our build times are around a minute and a half for that. But yeah, like standard Gatsby builds could actually be pretty big, so I could see how that feature could help out a lot. But yeah, minute and a half builds every 5 minutes. And we just pull the latest data from the government so that it looks like a real-time website or a up-to-date website, but really it's just a static website.
Yeah, that's pretty clever. I mean, I've done a lot of sort of tinkering with public APIs to support some of my needs for side projects. And like one of the hardest things, like you're from the Bay Area originally, so you know about the BART. Mm-hmm. And I was writing the BART pretty regularly up until recent changes. And like being on the BART, you just naturally, it's like, oh, I'm going to build an app so I can figure out how to avoid certain situations in the BART. So like Ben Alequidou, who's now at Stitch Fix, he built an app called BART Salmon. So he's like an engineer there. But because he lives in the last stop, which is Pittsburgh, he's got a lot of time to kill while he's on the BART. So he might as well get on the train that he could sit down on. So he built an app where it just tells him when the next train's coming and if it's worth going to the next stop up the chain to get a seat.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're going to get on at Montgomery, maybe take the chance and go up to 24th Street or go up to the Mission and then take it back down, because you'll get a seat at the Mission, but you won't get a seat at Montgomery Street. So
nice.
It's a nice little app. I'm not sure as far as like how he was supporting it. We didn't go into details of like at what servers he's running on it. But like if I were to take that idea and I wanted to scrape the BART API and give me some more like closer to real-time data or some sort of like socket, because I don't think the BART API actually gives that to you. It sounds like I can sort of fake that I have an open WebSocket that's giving me information at least within 5 minutes. I'm curious, like Kinto, can I set a few cron jobs? Because I imagine if I wanted to set a cron job that sort of hit only during rush hour, like pretty heavily, like are you able to like batch some cron jobs together to also maybe increase the rate at which you're deploying at?
No, right now we haven't supported any like dynamic changing of times of maybe during, the evenings you do every 5 minutes, and then, during regular like downtime at night, maybe you do it every hour or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, we haven't done anything dynamic like that, but you could maybe schedule your cron jobs at a specific time. So maybe at least if you wanted to hack it today, you could say that I want these jobs to run at this time between 5 and 7. And then I want it to be at this kind of schedule between, midnight and 6 a.m. kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you could say a specific time versus a recurring time on Kinto as well.
Excellent. So I'm also curious, like, as I did some prep to look at the project, like there's a lot of words that I'm not familiar with, but also a ton of words that I am familiar with. Like as me as like a lame person who has done a lot of front end in the past couple of years and has, I'm familiar with Heroku. I've done some Rails servers and like Python stuff. But when you start talking about Docker and Kubernetes and orchestration, like that's where I start getting lost. And I sort of like back up and I'm looking for different solutions to sort of like give me an easier way. And I think the space is sort of now really, really developing when you talk about like cloud native and a lot of this orchestration pieces. So I'm curious, is KintoHub, is it a solution for someone like myself who perhaps can build a website, but can't build a website to scale because I lack the knowledge of all that infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. And what we're trying to do is do it in a way that isn't opinionated. So you could come with any language, any framework. You don't have to, switch your code to Lambda or do something special or different, right? But at the same time, we don't want to take too much control. So let's say that, yes, if you go to KintoHub today and you just need a new website and you want to put it up and put it on a CDN and get like an SSL certificate really easily, yeah, KintoHub does that. If you want a backend API or Ruby, instance, and you want to be able to scale that horizontally, you could do that within a few clicks without, learning anything about load balancers or any of the stuff to take auto scale up. But then there's that moment where you're like, I need a database and I want it to be like super production grade. Like I want a MongoDB instance replica set with, 5 different instances, et cetera, which kind of might go outside of your domain name, but maybe for more serious, larger apps or teams, they might want that control. And that's where the whole Docker and Helm exposition comes. So if you do want to control your containers, you can bring your own Docker file. If you do want to set up a much more complex containerized system and multi-container setup, you could bring Helm charts. So that's the offering that we're doing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Could you explain what Helm is? I think most listeners or most of our listeners are familiar with the idea of Docker, but I haven't actually heard of Helm and know what the sort of benefit of that product gives you.
Cool. Yeah. So Helm is very similar to what the NPM, Maven, and you get the package management of actual languages is, but for Kubernetes.
Gotcha.
So if you wanted to get a service running, even if it was just a website running on Kubernetes, you might package that as a Helm chart, which would be the same as an NPM package. But the difference is you are thinking more as an infrastructure level. So really the DevOps world and infrastructure engineers would use Helm charts. It'd be very rare for a back-end or a front-end developer to kind of transition over into that world, but it's a fun world to check out. But Helm is probably the winner for package management in the Kubernetes space right now.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. And I appreciate you taking the time to sort of explain that too as well, because I've tinkered with the Kubernetes. I've literally gone through Kelsey Hightower's Kubernetes for, I want to call it Kubernetes for dummies, but I think it's Kubernetes the hard way.
Yeah.
But I definitely felt like a dummy copying and pasting everything and sort of just figuring it out.
Was that on Udemy?
No, it's actually a repo that he has under his org on GitHub.
Cool.
If you just go to Kelsey Hightower / Kubernetes the hard way, you start copying and pasting, you start generating keys and doing controllers. And I had something running, but I couldn't tell you exactly what it was.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of experience in being a consumer on that end. So when I say I don't really know how to set it up, I do know how to run a Docker container. I do know how to run scripts that are given to me, in the READMEs and within the doc files. So I had a lot of experience. So when I worked at Netlify specifically, actually doing features for Netlify involved running a lot of that stuff, but it didn't require me for actually doing any of that work to get that running. So that's where I sort of fall over, and that's where I'm always intrigued to learn it, but I don't have a legit problem to solve. If I go to approach using a new JavaScript framework, I know the problem I will be solving to put that on the web.
Yeah.
But when we start talking about scaling, I don't know what the first step is to start orchestrating stuff. So I'm curious, if I'm interested in a thing like KintoHub and using tools like this or even a Helm to manage some of the stuff, are there hello worlds for things that involve some of this orchestration and DevOps stuff?
Well, we have 2 things. One is we have a catalog. So we do have pre-built Helm charts that we've curated for KintoHub. And that's all open source. So if you wanted to see what we changed and see all the PRs and the commits and all that other stuff, it's all open source as our catalog offering. And then also in our docs underneath quick starts, you'll be able to find all that stuff as well, like how to set up a Helm chart or even how to use different frameworks on KintoHub as well. If you wanted to Go, PHP, Java, Ruby, you name it. We have a bunch of different examples. I think we hit 23 or 24 examples of how you would set that up with KintoHub. And no video tutorials yet, but probably sometime in the next month or 2, we'll be doing another video series on the new version we're launching with Helm charts.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I'm a fan of the reading the docs, but I know I'm also a fan of the videos because if I'm looking for an answer, I can fast forward to it.
Yeah.
But I know everybody learns in a different way, so I'm sure somebody will appreciate having videos eventually. But I also appreciate how nice these docs looked as well. You got Django, Flash, Gen. It's you're crossing the scope, Koa, Express, JavaScript, Python, And then I think Gen is that Go.
That's Go. Gen is Go.
Yeah, I remember back in the day it was like Negroni. Was Negroni before Gen? There was something before Gen.
Yeah. I think that was the first one, and Gen was kind of a play on that.
Yeah. Well, actually, if I know the history correctly, because I learned Negroni back in the day when I was learning Go, and I guess Negroni did not like follow best practices for Go. So like Gen is what you would actually put in a drink. There's no Gen in Negroni, if anybody cares. But yeah, I digress. Anyway, I am actually super intrigued about this. Like, I wasn't sure what to think about this project, but like I'm super intrigued on how to get myself into DevOps world, because I don't have any scaling issues today, but I know I will have in one of the projects I'm working with. One thing I am aware of that you could use Kubernetes, but also Docker containers for is like things like A/B testing. So when you start talking about load balancing is a term you already mentioned, but being able to load balance like different versions of your site to different servers as well. Like perhaps like I think you'd mentioned Cloudflare, so I imagine there's a hook in the Cloudflare with KintoHub. Or are you just manually shipping that?
Yeah, I mean, we let people choose what CDN or outside like host name that they want to use. We're slowly going to kind of give more of an opinionated, option on that, like where you could say you deploy your environment and it's going to be in the US, it's going to be in Europe, and it's going to be in Asia. And then we will automatically load balance that based on your geolocation. So we will like kind of give you those one-click options as well. But then if you don't want to do that and you still want to control the load balancer, or what you're load balancing with, we'll give you that option too. So that's like always our forte is like, if you want to do it yourself, do it yourself. But there is the one-click button option too if you want it. But yeah, load balancing and A/B testing is actually a pretty interesting topic because it's really hard to do once you get a lot of different services.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I think, the preview deployments on like, Netlify and Zeit, for example, are great. And it works great for one service if you want to preview it. And if you wanted to do an A/B test between one service, then it's pretty cool. But then the moment you have a backend API that's version 2.0 that you want to test with a new front end, with maybe a database migration, like once things get a little funky in that sense, if you're not using like MongoDB, it gets even more complex if you have proper migrations like MySQL and Postgres, then you got like a pretty complex problem underneath the hood. And I don't think there's many solutions for that until you get into the deep cloud native space with like Istio and blue-green deployments, all this other stuff. But still, it's extremely hard to accomplish. But what I would say, if you are going to experiment with that in like the near term, is launch darkly is a very cool like feature flagging. And I believe GitHub does it as well with how they release features, they feature flag.
Yeah.
And you really are controlling what you're exposing on the front end. So that simplifies the problem a lot. But it's a completely different approach to blue-green deployments, right?
Yeah.
So I usually recommend people like if you want to start scratching there, you should start with feature flagging because it's a lot more easy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely a good thing to mention too. And also, just shout out to Launch Darkly, who Edith actually co-hosts a podcast. So the CEO of Launch Darkly co-hosts a podcast on the same network as Heavybit. So definitely check out To Be Continuous, which is their podcast.
Cool.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention too as well, because I was just taking a peruse through your pricing page. So like I didn't mention, but when I went through the whole Kubernetes the hard way with Kelsey Hightower, one thing I did not mention is I ended up paying $80 for that.
Oh, wow.
And it was because I did it on a Friday because, you always try new things on Fridays while you're not really doing anything. And like spun up like some controllers and had some stuff running. And then I ended up like pausing the tutorial and then walking away from it over the weekend. So like I was running things 24/7. Sorry, 24 hours for the entire weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And by the time I realized it, I was like, luckily it was like the end of the month. So I ended up getting like pinged on like a bill. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like I just signed up for this thing. Well, I had a Google Cloud account thanks to Firebase. But so like I've been a Google Cloud member. I don't have any free credits because I've been a cloud member, which is another like gotcha. So then I'm like, oh, wow, $79? Like, what did I do? Like, this must be wrong. Because I ended up seeing my credit card, like, pending charge. And I was like, And then I was like, oh, I left that thing running. And because, like, I just closed the terminal, like, this kept it running in my machine, never, like, restarted or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just sort of charging me, which was amazing.
An expensive tab.
Yeah, very expensive tab. And, like, especially when you're doing it the wrong way, like I was, where I was just sort of copying and pasting, going through it, just learning. at least I was learning the terms and learning the terminology of how to approach that and build something like a load balancer. I think that's what we were focusing on in that tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
But like stopping that and moving on, like that's enough for me to be like, I'm never touching this again.
Yep.
Like I will hire somebody for $800 before I actually pay $80 to do it wrong.
Yeah.
And getting $0 of value out of it.
And hopefully they know how to do it right.
Yeah. And like, it's not even a knock on like Kelsey's tutorial, and it's not a knock on, like even Kubernetes as like a product at itself, but it's more of a knock on myself that I don't have the knowledge enough to know what I need to get out of this. So it's almost like if you don't know what you don't know, then it's like almost not approachable to you, which I've felt for most of the DevOps space outside of like CI. But when you start talking about like true like DevOps and orchestration and all this other stuff that we've sort of covered, that's what makes this really enticing for me. So like when I start thinking about, hey, I need actually some sort of, not fancy, but I need some bespoke situations of how I sort of orchestrate how my site is or my project is being delivered.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, like, I think you've sort of convinced me. I'm not sure. The goal wasn't really for you to sell me on the podcast, but I'm actually really, really intrigued on trying this out.
Yeah.
And I hope the listeners sort of gone through this sort of journey with me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's and it's been a journey for me, and it's funny that you mentioned and learned that from Kelsey as well, because I learned Kubernetes from Kelsey on the Udemy.
Okay.
I think it was like Introduction to Kubernetes. So that when I first started looking into this idea back in early 2017, late 2016, I just took the course and just learned, Kubernetes, and it was mind blowing. But then it was also costly, like you say. And it's actually a crazy journey, because the Kubernetes space is the first step to cloud native. And then when you get into the cloud native CNCF, then you're installing all these crazy packages that, cost you a lot of money. Like if you want to do monitoring with Prometheus and you're doing that for months with, multi-tenant servers, you're spending thousands of dollars if you don't know how to manage that data, just on data alone. And it takes one little configuration to say, hey, put it in cold storage versus put it in memory. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The learning curve in terms of costs in this space is insane. So that's like one of the things that, of course, why you would leave maybe Heroku or another place too, because of cost. We were also trying to start with like cost optimization by default, so that we do put you on a preemptible node or spot instance by default. So you don't have to pay for full servers and stuff like that.
Yeah, excellent. Is there anything else you wanted to cover in regards to the space?
Yeah, definitely. We're here to help if you do start playing with KintoHub. We have a Discord channel, and we're supporting people left and right there, and always open, for feedback. And early days for us, so we're just trying to keep our ears open to see what people want and work towards that.
Excellent. Yeah. So with that being said, I want to transition us to picks. So these are jam picks, things that keep us going. Could be music, movie related, could be tech picks. At this time, like we have spent a lot of time inside, so my picks are around being inside. So if you don't mind, I'll share my first couple picks. First one is actually, I've got I started streaming on Twitch, programming. And I think I've mentioned this a couple times I've had a Twitch account for a while, which is my gaming tag, which is Me8Robot. I've recently switched that tag to my regular Twitter handle. So if anybody's looking for me, BDougieYo on Twitch. And I've been streaming like twice a week for at least the last 30 days. And it's been quite the experiment. It's been a lot of fun to sort of just pull up my terminal and like Visual Studio Code and just start hacking away at some of the problems that weren't really work related. I just wanted them to sort of hack on something, but also get feedback. And usually on Fridays, I get a couple of guys who will jump in and start chatting and giving me pointers and tips on like what I'm doing wrong. So like if you like to learn in the open and learn in public, I highly recommend it. Using that as an opportunity, especially if you're looking to level up with like a group or like a learning club or whatever. But yeah, if you are doing a learning club on Twitch, let me know. I would love to see how that works and how that sort of build a community around that. So the next thing I wanted to mention is TMI.js. TMI.js is Twitch messaging interface. And it's a nice little cool little API. Actually, not even API, it's SDK around their API. So it gives you a lot of stuff like what you would normally get at SDK. But at the moment, I'm building a chatbot. So that way, anybody who shows up in my Twitch stream can do some pretty generic commands at the moment. Actually, I'm going to be building a yo command. So that way, whenever you just type in yo, since my name on Twitter is BDougieYo, it actually does something a little cool.
Nice.
As well as some other those little Twitch interactions that a lot of people are doing. So yeah, check out mutualfund.live, which is my new site if you want to see all the stuff I'm working on in regards to live streaming. So yeah, that's sort of pretty much where I'm at for picks. But Joseph, did you have a pick?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just, do a little local here in Hong Kong now that I've been kind of stuck over here. So we're actually opening back up on Monday on May the 4th be with you. So the Punjab Club is probably one of the best Indian foods. And I lived in India for 15 months actually as well.
Nice.
So Punjab Club here in Hong Kong just got its first Michelin star. Congrats to them, and
nice.
Really, really amazing food. So very excited to finally, go out on a date with the wifey, and we're planning on doing that soon. So just wanted to mention that, and I guess like as I've been, kind of trying to live in the 900 square feet that I live in here, I've been trying to start a new hobby and do, other things other than stare at the screen all day. It's definitely harder to disconnect. So I picked up, out of all things, kind of spinning and DJing a little bit. So,
nice.
So I just started a little SoundCloud DJ Milkman after my son, 9 months old. and I picked up a DDJ SX2.
That is a good pun.
Yeah, that was his nickname because he was always just having fun with his milk bottle. But yeah, the DDJ SX2, really amazing controller. It's been a lot of fun playing with that, and then the learning curve has been minimal with YouTube videos and everything, which has been great.
Who makes that controller?
Serato.
Okay, yeah, because I'm actually eyeing controllers like yourself. I am also picking up hobbies left and right.
Sorry to mention, it's actually a Pioneer, but it's a Serato-based Pioneer.
Okay.
So I guess they had like a partnership or something, but both their logos are on it.
Yeah. And at this point, a lot of this music gear, because I've got a Behringer mixer, a lot of these like companies have like they're buying each other. So like you have this like different levels. So sometimes it can be confusing on who. I know all this stuff because I used to do music in college, like produce beats and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm super envious of one of my coworkers who's actually been picking up sampling and learning how to do that.
Oh wow!
And using some Ableton, the Push 2, and then the Machine. I just don't need another hobby. Like I think if I do that, then my family will never see me because then I'll be coding, I'll be streaming, I'll be playing games, and then I'll also be making music. So my kids will have to raise themselves. So I'm hoping that one of my other hobbies will die off once everything opens up. But I'm really intrigued in a lot of these Instagram artists. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to some of these DJs doing their sets on Instagram Live and even Twitch too as well, which has been weird because it's a weird place to watch stuff that's not gaming. So like coding is even weird to watch it there, but
it's like new content,
but not weird enough that you can't watch me.
I didn't realize. So I'm actually from the game industry. This is my first startup outside of the game industry. Did you get a chance to play Valorant at all, or got the invite?
No. I've watched a bit of it, but like the first person shooters, like I haven't really been into them since like college. Like I'm a very passive player, so like I wouldn't even be playing right now if I had the invite. But I have been watching, so I'm a bigger fan of watching the first person shooters nowadays.
Yeah,
mainly because like I'm not really into the battle royale. Like I used to play Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike's probably the only one I still do play.
Yeah,
but
so you're playing Go?
Yeah, jumping out of airplanes and then dying and then waiting another 30 minutes until you get put into another room. It's just not my speed right now.
Oh, I hear you. I'm a huge Counter-Strike fan. Actually, I clocked over 6,000 hours in high school playing Counter-Strike, which was ridiculous.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I was an OG Counter-Strike player, so I used to play on my janky Windows machine back in middle school.
Yeah, but Valorant looks like it has the CS mechanics, or at least the 1.6 like old, you shoot them, they're down kind of thing. So
yeah,
definitely excited to try it out when it comes out.
Yeah. When it's open to everybody, I'll definitely give it a spin. But yeah, I just don't have it in me to start really going hard because some of these kids are just way too good. So
yeah.
Anyway, Joseph, I just appreciate you coming on, calling us from all the way from Hong Kong, and sharing about your budding DJ career, but as well as talking about the DevOps space and sort of clearing it up for me, but as well as the rest of the listeners. So thanks for that. And listeners, keep spreading the jam.
That's all the time we have for today. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, find us on Twitter at JAMstack Radio. To learn more about Heavybit, visit heavybit.com. And while you're there, check out their library. It's packed with amazing talks on sales, marketing, product, and general management from founders of developer tools companies and other industry leaders.